The billionaire dropped his knees in the middle of the charity hall. Gasps ripped through the room. Crystal glasses froze halfway to lips. Cameras swung wildly. No one understood what they were seeing. Marcus Langston, tech billionaire investor, the man who never bowed to anyone, was crying on a marble floor, his expensive suit wrinkling as his hands trembled. His voice broke as he stared at the woman standing before him. "It's you," he whispered, tears spilling freely. "That scar, I would recognize it anywhere." The woman flinched. Instinctively, she turned her face away, the long scarf slipping just enough to reveal the jagged scar running from her temple down to her jaw. The same scar that had made people stare. The same scar that had made children cry and adults look away. The same scar that had caused her to be rejected again and again, even from places meant to help. Security rushed forward, thinking something was wrong. Guests murmured in shock. Why is he kneeling for her? Who is she? What did she do? She wanted to run. Her name was Naomi Carter, and for most of her life, the world had only seen her scar, never her heart. Marcus reached out, shaking, not to grab her, but to touch the air near her face, as if afraid she might disappear. "I searched for you," he sobbed. "For years." Naomi's legs weakened. She had come to this charity event as a kitchen helper, not as a guest, not as someone important. She was only there because the shelter where she slept needed the small paycheck. She never imagined this. She never imagined him. And she never imagined that the scar everyone hated would be the very thing that made a billionaire fall apart in front of the world. The room waited. Naomi swallowed hard and whispered, "Sir, I think you have the wrong person." Marcus shook his head slowly. "No," he said, voice cracking. "I finally found the girl who saved my life." The lights flickered slightly as thunder rolled outside. Naomi's past, buried, painful, and forgotten, was about to tear open, and no one in that room was ready for the truth. Years earlier, Naomi had not always hidden her face. She grew up in a quiet neighborhood outside Atlanta, where the houses were small, but the laughter was loud. Her mother worked long hours as a home health aide, and her father fixed cars in a tiny garage behind their house. They didn't have much, but they had love. Naomi was known for her smile. She volunteered at church, helped elderly neighbors carry groceries, and tutored kids after school. Teachers said she had a calming presence. People trusted her. Then one rainy night changed everything. Naomi was 19 when she saw a car crash on the highway. Flames licked the hood. Smoke filled the air. People stood frozen, afraid the car might explode. Naomi didn't think. She ran. She smashed a window with a rock, reached into the burning car, and dragged the unconscious driver out just seconds before the gas tank exploded. The blast threw her back, fire ripping across her face. She survived. The driver survived. But when Naomi woke up in the hospital, her world had shifted forever. The doctors saved her life, but they couldn't save her face. The scar became the first thing people saw, and the last thing they remembered. Friends slowly stopped calling. Job interviews ended quickly. Children stared. Adults whispered. Even in church, people avoided sitting near her. Her parents tried to be strong, but life hit hard. Medical bills piled up. Her father got sick. Her mother grew tired. When both parents passed within a year of each other, Naomi was left alone, with grief, debt, and a face the world refused to accept. She moved from couch to couch, then shelters, then streets. Every rejection cut deeper than the scar itself. Until tonight, back in the charity hall, Marcus struggled to stand, helped by staff who didn't know whether to stop him or bow with him. "I owe you everything," he said to Naomi, his voice echoing. "And I didn't even know your name." Naomi's heart pounded. She stared at the man everyone admired, feared, and praised, and felt something unfamiliar rise inside her. Hope. But hope had betrayed her before. And just as she opened her mouth to speak, a woman in a red dress pushed through the crowd and shouted, "Marcus, what are you doing? Everyone is watching." Marcus turned slowly, his eyes hard now, his tears drying. "They need to watch," he said, "because tonight the truth comes out." Naomi's breath caught. What truth? And how could her scar, her greatest pain, be tied to a billionaire's tears? The answer hovered in the air, heavy and dangerous, waiting to fall. If this story has already touched your heart, take a moment now to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who believes kindness still matters. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city or country in the comments. We love seeing how far these stories reach. And tell us, what would you have done if you were in Naomi's place? Would you have run or stayed to hear the truth? Silence swallowed the charity hall after Marcus spoke. People who had come to sip champagne and talk business now stood frozen, their curiosity burning brighter than the crystal lights above them. Phones were raised. Whispers spread like wildfire. Naomi wished the floor would open and take her away. She pulled the scarf tighter around her face, her fingers shaking. Her instinct told her to run. Running was what she had always done when people stared too long, when whispers turned sharp, when pity became heavy. But Marcus was already standing now, blocking her path without touching her. "Please," he said softly, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "Don't leave. Not again." That word again pierced her chest. Again? She looked up at him carefully. His eyes were red, swollen with emotion, but there was something else there too. Guilt. Deep, heavy guilt. "I don't know you," Naomi said, her voice barely above a whisper. "And everyone is staring." "I know," Marcus replied. "They stared at me once too. I was just lucky enough to be rescued before the world decided who I was." Naomi didn't understand, but something in his tone made her pause. Marcus turned to the crowd. His voice rose, calm but firm, the kind of voice people listen to without realizing why. "This event was meant to celebrate generosity," he said. "But generosity without truth is just decoration. I need to tell you why I'm on my knees tonight." The organizers panicked. A few tried to step forward, but Marcus lifted one hand, stopping them. "Give me 5 minutes," he said. "After that, I'll leave if you ask me to." 5 minutes. Naomi felt like she couldn't breathe, but she stayed. Marcus took a slow breath. 10 years ago, he began, I was not a billionaire. I was a reckless young man who thought speed and success made him untouchable. Naomi's heart thumped. 10 years ago, Marcus continued, his voice steady but heavy. I was driving too fast on a rainy night. I was angry, distracted, and careless. I lost control. Images flashed in Naomi's mind without permission. Rain, screeching tires, fire. Her knees weakened. The car flipped, Marcus said. I was trapped. Smoke everywhere. People stood watching. Some called for help. No one came close. Naomi's ears rang. Then someone ran toward me, he said, through fire, through fear. A young woman, barely more than a girl. Naomi's chest tightened painfully. She broke the window. She pulled me out, and just before the explosion, she was thrown back. The room was completely silent now. Marcus swallowed hard. I woke up days later, he said. Alive, scarred only on the inside. I asked about her. Naomi felt tears burn behind her eyes. They told me she survived, Marcus continued, but she disappeared. No name, no record, just a note from a nurse that said, she asked if the man lived. When we said yes, she smiled. A quiet sob escaped Naomi's lips before she could stop it. Marcus turned back to her slowly. I spent years looking, he said, but I got busy. I got rich. I told myself I'd find her later. His voice cracked, and later turned into never. Naomi shook her head, tears sliding freely now. That wasn't me, she whispered. You're wrong. Marcus took a careful step closer. I remember the scar, he said gently. It wasn't there before the fire, but after, I saw it when you shielded your face from the heat. Naomi's legs gave out. A chair appeared behind her, just in time as a volunteer helped her sit. The memories she had buried clawed their way back. Sirens, pain, the smell of burning metal, her own screams swallowed by the rain. She had never told anyone the full story, because no one ever asked. Marcus dropped to one knee again, not for show this time, but because he could no longer stand under the weight of his regret. I let the world move on, he said, while you paid the price for my life. Naomi looked at him through tears. "You lived," she said softly. "That was enough." "No," Marcus replied. "It wasn't." The crowd murmured again, but now it sounded different. Not judgment, shocked understanding. Marcus stood and faced the audience. "This woman saved my life," he said, "and the world repaid her with rejection." His eyes darkened. "I won't." Naomi's heart pounded as fear mixed with something unfamiliar. Possibility. But before she could speak, a sharply dressed woman from the board stepped forward, her face tight. "Marcus," she said quietly but firmly, "this is inappropriate. The media—" Marcus turned to her coldly. "Let them film," he said. "For once, let them film the truth." Naomi clutched the arms of the chair. What did truth mean now? What was Marcus planning to do? And was kindness finally coming, or was this another moment that would end in disappointment? Thunder rumbled again outside, as if the sky itself was listening. Marcus turned back to Naomi and said the words that made the room gasp. "I want you to come with me tonight." Naomi froze. "Not as charity," he added quickly. "As family." Her heart slammed against her ribs. "Family?" Before she could answer, cameras flashed brighter. Reporters pushed forward, and voices rose all at once. Naomi felt the old fear return. Was this help or another trap? And could she trust a man who found her only after he became powerful? The answer was no longer hers alone. The world was watching now. If this chapter moved you, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who believes scars don't define worth. Where are you watching from right now? Tell us in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And be honest. If you were Naomi, would you go with him or walk away? Naomi stood very still. The room was loud now, voices overlapping, cameras flashing, shoes scraping on marble, but inside her head, everything went quiet. "I can't," she said at last. Her voice was soft, but it cut through the noise. Marcus blinked. "You can't what?" "I can't go with you," Naomi repeated. "Not like this. Not in front of everyone." A few people in the crowd exchanged surprised looks. Some expected tears of joy. Others expected gratitude. Almost no one expected refusal. Marcus nodded slowly, as if he prepared himself for this answer even while hoping for another. "You're right," he said. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to trap you." Trap. That word mattered to Naomi. Too many times in her life, help had come with strings. Too many smiles had hidden judgment. Too many promises had turned into doors quietly closing behind her. She stood up from the chair, holding her scarf tightly. "I saved you because it was the right thing to do," she said. "Not because I wanted something back." Marcus lowered his head. "I know." The board members looked relieved, thinking the moment was over. The media began to lose interest. A few guests turned away, disappointed that the drama might be ending. But Marcus wasn't done. "I won't force you," he said, "but I won't disappear again either." Naomi hesitated. "For 10 years, he continued, I've told myself that success made me a good man. Tonight, I realize it only made me comfortable." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a simple folded paper. "This is my number," he said, holding it out without stepping closer. "No assistance. No publicity. Just me." Naomi stared at it. A number, not money, not a contract, not a speech, just a choice. She took it, not because she trusted him yet, but because something deep inside her said this moment was different. Security finally guided Marcus away toward a quiet side room. The event slowly returned to its planned program, but the energy had changed. Conversations were hushed. Laughter felt forced. Naomi slipped back toward the kitchen area, her heart heavy. As she walked, she noticed something else. People were looking at her differently, not with fear, not with disgust, with curiosity, with respect, and that scared her more than rejection ever had. Later that night, Naomi sat alone on the bus bench outside the shelter. The city hummed around her. Cars passing, sirens far away, neon lights blinking like tired eyes. She unfolded the paper again. The number was real. She thought of the scar, the way people flinched when they saw it, the way mirrors reminded her every morning that the world would never be gentle with her. She also thought of Marcus's tears. Real tears don't lie. Her phone buzzed suddenly. A known number. Her breath caught. She almost didn't answer. Almost. "Hello," she said. "It's me," Marcus said quietly. "I just wanted to make sure you got home safe." Naomi closed her eyes. "I did," she replied. A pause. "I meant what I said," Marcus continued. "I don't want headlines. I want to make things right. At your pace." Naomi swallowed. "Why now?" she asked. "Why not years ago?" Marcus didn't answer right away. "Because," he said finally, "I was afraid if I found you, I'd have to face who I really was." The honesty stunned her. Before she could respond, another voice cut in sharply from behind her. "Naomi?" She turned. A woman stood there, well-dressed, confident, her eyes fixed on Naomi's face. Not the scar, but her eyes. "I'm sorry to interrupt," the woman said coolly, "but you need to stay away from Marcus Langston." Naomi's heart dropped. "Who are you?" Naomi asked. The woman smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "My name is Evelyn," she said, "and the truth about that fire is not what you think." Naomi's phone slipped from her hand. "What do you mean?" she whispered. Evelyn leaned closer. "Because if Marcus tells you everything," she said, "his empire will fall, and so will your hope." She turned and walked away, heels clicking into the night. Naomi stood frozen, her chest tight with fear. What truth had been hidden for 10 years? And why did it sound like the scar that ruined her life might also destroy his? The city lights flickered, and Naomi realized her story was only just beginning. If this chapter made you stop and think, take a moment now to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this story with someone who believes truth always finds its way out. Tell us in the comments, where are you watching from today? And one more question for you. If you were Naomi, would you trust Marcus or listen to warning and walk away? Naomi did not sleep that night. The shelter was quiet, but her mind was loud. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw a fire. Not just a fire from the crash years ago, but a new kind of fire. Truth burning through lies, threatening to consume everything in its path. Evelyn's words echoed again and again. The truth about that fire is not what you think. Naomi sat up on her thin mattress and touched the edge of her scar gently, as she often did when she needed grounding. The scar had always been her enemy. But now, for the first time, it felt like a key, one that unlocked doors she didn't even know existed. She stood, walked quietly to the small mirror by the bathroom, and looked at herself. For years, she had avoided mirrors. Tonight, she didn't. "I didn't imagine it," she whispered to her reflection. "I was there. I know what I saw." But did she? Memory could be tricky. Trauma blurred edges. Fear rewrote details. She remembered the rain, the spinning car, the man inside, unconscious. But after the explosion, after pain and darkness, everything else faded. Was there something she missed? By morning, Naomi had made a decision. She would not run. If the truth could hurt her, it could also heal her. And she was tired of living half a life, always shrinking, always hiding. Later that day, Marcus arrived at his office downtown, but his mind was nowhere near business. Meetings blurred into noise. Numbers meant nothing. He couldn't stop seeing Naomi's face, not the scar, but the strength behind it. The way she refused him, not out of pride, but dignity, that frightened him more than any enemy ever had. His assistant hesitated at the door. "Sir," she said carefully, "Evelyn Grant is here. She insists." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Send her in." Evelyn entered like she owned the room, dressed sharply, her posture perfect. She closed the door behind her. "You shouldn't have spoken to her," she said without greeting. Marcus leaned back in his chair. "You shouldn't have approached her." Evelyn's eyes hardened. "She's a liability." "She's a human being." Marcus snapped. Evelyn laughed softly. "You didn't think like that 10 years ago." The air turned cold. Marcus stood. "Don't rewrite history." "Oh, I won't," Evelyn replied calmly. "I'll remind you of it." She stepped closer. "That car wasn't just speeding," she said. "It was carrying documents. Evidence. And if Naomi remembers more than she should... She doesn't, Marcus interrupted. She barely remembers the crash. Evelyn smiled faintly. Trauma fades until something wakes it up, like recognition, like kneeling in public. Marcus's fists clenched. You're afraid, he said. Evelyn didn't deny it. Because everything we built rests on silence. Back at the shelter, Naomi prepared to leave for her shift when a social worker stopped her. There's someone asking for you, the woman said. Naomi's heart jumped. Who? He didn't give a name, the worker replied. But he said you saved his life once. Naomi froze. Outside, an older man waited near a parked car. His clothes were plain. His face was lined with years and regret. When he saw Naomi, his eyes filled with tears. I was there, he said immediately. That night, on the highway. Naomi's breath caught. You saw the crash? He nodded. I was the one who called emergency services. I saw you run into the fire. Her knees felt weak. There was something else, the man continued. Something you didn't see. Naomi's voice trembled. What? He swallowed hard. There was another car, he said, and it drove away before the explosion. Naomi's world tilted. Another car? What do you mean? She asked. I mean, the man said quietly, that crash wasn't just an accident. The scar on Naomi's face suddenly felt heavier than ever. If the fire was not random, then her pain was not meaningless. And the truth she carried, whether she remembered it or not, could change everything. The man took a deep breath and said the words that made Naomi's blood run cold. They wanted him dead. Naomi staggered back, her heart pounding. Jose? Why had she been the one to pull Marcus from the car? And what would happen if she finally remembered everything? The answers were coming. And this time, there would be no hiding. Naomi sat on the edge of the shelter's narrow bench long after the old man finished speaking. They wanted him dead. The words repeated in her mind like a slow drumbeat. Why are you telling me this now? She finally asked, her voice tight. The old man looked around nervously before answering. Because I saw you on the news last night. I saw your face, and I realized the past was waking up. Naomi hugged herself. Who are you? My name is Henry Wallace, he said. I was a delivery driver back then. I stopped because I thought someone might still be alive. You didn't come forward, Naomi said, not accusing, just stating. Henry lowered his head. I was scared. After the explosion, men in suits showed up fast. Too fast. They asked questions, took my statement, told me it was better if I forgot what I saw. Naomi felt cold. And you listened, she whispered. I had a family, Henry replied. I convinced myself you saved him, so it was over. But it wasn't. Naomi stood slowly. Her legs trembled, but her voice grew steadier. There was another car, she said. Dark. I remember headlights just before everything went bright. Henry's eyes widened. You do remember? Pieces, Naomi said. Just pieces. Henry nodded. Enough to be dangerous. That night, Naomi walked the city streets instead of returning to the shelter. She needed space. Noise helped her think. Her phone buzzed again. Marcus. She stared at the screen for a long moment before answering. Naomi, Marcus said, relief clear in his voice. I was worried. Someone came to see me today, she said quietly. Marcus went silent. He said there was another car. Naomi continued. He said the crash was an accident. The silence stretched longer this time. Is that true? Naomi asked. Marcus exhaled slowly. Yes. The honesty hit her harder than any lie could have. I didn't know everything then, Marcus said, but I knew enough to be afraid. Afraid of what? Naomi asked. Of powerful people, he replied, and of myself. Naomi stopped walking. You let me burn, she said. Not angry, just wounded. Marcus's voice broke. I let fear win. Tears slid down Naomi's face, but she didn't wipe them away. All these years, she said, I thought the scar was just bad luck, just life being unfair. It wasn't, Marcus said. It was the price of my cowardice. They stayed on the phone in silence. Sharing pain words could no longer carry. "I don't want your money," Naomi said at last. "I want the truth. All of it." Marcus didn't hesitate. "Then we have to be careful." "Why?" she asked. "Because," Marcus said, "if what you remember comes back fully, it won't just change my life." Naomi closed her eyes. "It will put you in danger." She hung up slowly, the city lights blurring around her. For the first time since the fire, Naomi understood something clearly. Her scar was not the end of her story. It was evidence. And somewhere, people who had tried to erase the past were beginning to realize she had not disappeared after all. Naomi lifted her chin and kept walking. If danger was coming, she would face it standing, just like she had faced a fire. And this time, she would not stand alone. The danger did not announce itself. It arrived quietly. 2 days passed without incident, and that worried Naomi more than the chaos ever could. Silence had always meant something was moving behind the scenes. She stayed with a friend from the shelter, a woman named Rosa, who asked no questions and offered no pity. Naomi appreciated that. Pity made her feel small. Quiet understanding made her feel human. Early on the third morning, Naomi noticed something strange. A black sedan parked across the street. It wasn't moving. The engine stayed off. The windows were dark. At first, she told herself she was imagining things. Trauma made the mind suspicious. But when she went to the corner store and came back, the car was still there. When she left again later that afternoon, it was gone. Her phone rang as she locked the door. "Marcus, tell me where you are," he said immediately. Naomi stiffened. "Why?" "Because my security team flagged unusual activity near the shelter you usually stay at," he replied. "And because Evelyn is no longer answering my calls." Naomi's heart dropped. "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means she's moved from warning to action," Marcus said. "And you need to stop underestimating how serious this is." Naomi leaned against the wall. "I never asked for any of this," she said. "I know," Marcus replied. "That's why I won't let it take you." There was a pause. "I'm sending someone," he said. "Not to force you, just to protect you." Naomi hesitated, then nodded even though he couldn't see her. "Okay," she whispered. That evening, as the sun dipped low, Naomi packed a small bag, not because she planned to run, but because she had learned never to be unprepared. A knock came at the door. Rosa peeked through the curtain. "2 people," she whispered. "They look serious." Naomi took a breath and opened the door. A man and a woman stood outside. Calm, professional. "We're here on Marcus Langston's request," the woman said. "We just want to make sure you're safe." Naomi studied their faces. No fear, no judgment. She nodded. 5 minutes. As she turned to grab her bag, something caught her eye through the window. The black sedan was back, parked closer this time. Her pulse spiked. The man followed her gaze. His jaw tightened. "We need to leave," he said quietly. "Now." They stepped outside together. That was when the sedan's engine roared to life. The car lurched forward fast. "Move," the woman shouted. Everything happened at once. Naomi felt hands grab her arms, pulling her back just as the car jumped the curb and slammed into the space where she had been standing. Glass shattered. People screamed. The sedan reversed violently, tires screeching, then sped off down the street. Naomi collapsed to her knees, shaking uncontrollably. The man crouched beside her. "You're safe," he said firmly. "You're safe." But Naomi knew better. This was no longer about memories. Someone had just tried to erase her. Miles away, Marcus watched the security footage in stunned silence. "They didn't want to scare her," he said coldly. "They wanted to finish what they started." His assistant looked pale. "What do we do?" Marcus straightened. "We stop hiding," he said, "and we prepare for war." As Naomi sat in the back of a moving vehicle, wrapped in a blanket, her hands still trembling, one truth became painfully clear. Her scar was not just a reminder of the past. It was a threat to powerful people who would do anything to keep the truth buried. And now, they knew she was no longer alone. Naomi watched the city lights slide past the tinted window, each one stretching into a long blur before disappearing. Her body was still shaking, even though the danger had passed. For now, she had almost died again, not because of fire this time, but because she remembered too much. The woman from Marcus's security team sat beside her, calm and alert. "You did well," she said gently. "Most people freeze." Naomi let out a weak laugh. "I've had practice." They arrived at a quiet house on the edge of the city, hidden behind tall trees and a gated drive. It didn't look like a fortress. It looked ordinary. That, Naomi realized, was the point. Inside, everything smelled clean and still. Too still. "This is temporary," the man said as he set her bag down, "just until things settle." Naomi nodded, though she didn't believe things would settle at all. Marcus arrived less than an hour later. The moment he stepped inside and saw her sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, his control finally cracked. He crossed the room and stopped in front of her, lowering himself so they were eye level. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have protected you sooner." Naomi met his gaze. "You are now." That surprised him. "You didn't choose the fire," she continued, "but you're choosing what happens next." Marcus swallowed hard. "They tried to kill you," he said. "That means Evelyn is desperate." Naomi stiffened. "You still think she's behind this?" Marcus nodded. "She knows where the bodies are buried, literally and figuratively." Naomi took a breath. "Then I need to remember everything." Marcus shook his head immediately. "No, not alone." "I don't mean alone," Naomi said. "I mean fully. I'm tired of living with shadows." Marcus leaned back, rubbing his temples. "There's something you don't know," he said. "The night of the crash wasn't just about me." Naomi waited. "There was a deal happening," Marcus continued. "I was carrying documents that could expose a network of fraud tied to several powerful investors. Evelyn helped arrange the meeting." Naomi's heart pounded. "You trusted her," she said. "I trusted ambition," Marcus replied bitterly, "and I paid for it." Naomi's memories stirred again. Headlights, a second car, the way it sped up instead of slowing down. "I remember swerving," she said slowly, "not because of the rain, because something hit me." Marcus looked up sharply. "You're sure?" Naomi nodded. "I remember the sound. Metal against metal. Intentional." Silence fell between them. "That means," Marcus said quietly, "they never planned to let me live. And they never planned for me," Naomi added. Marcus's jaw tightened. "You were the variable they couldn't control." Naomi felt something shift inside her, not fear this time, but clarity. "For years," she said, "I thought the scar was my punishment, like I did something wrong." Marcus shook his head. "It was proof of your courage." Naomi stood slowly, steady now. "Then I won't hide it anymore," she said. Marcus studied her face. "The scar, the strength. What are you saying?" he asked. "I'm saying if the truth is dangerous," Naomi replied. "Then we stop whispering it." Marcus understood immediately. "You want to go public?" "Yes," Naomi said, "with everything." Marcus exhaled slowly. "That will destroy people." Naomi held his gaze. "It already destroyed me." Outside, thunder rolled again, deep and heavy, like the world preparing for impact. Marcus reached for his phone. "Then we do this the right way," he said. "Safely, legally, and without mercy." Naomi nodded. For the first time in her life, she wasn't running from her scar. She was standing behind it. And somewhere in the city, Evelyn Grant felt the ground beneath her feet begin to crack. Though she didn't yet know how deep the fall would be, the plan began quietly. No press releases, no dramatic announcements, just careful steps taken in silence, like people crossing thin ice. Marcus moved Naomi to an even more secure location, one that didn't belong to him on paper. Lawyers were brought in under strict agreements. Old files were reopened. Bank records were pulled from deep storage. Names long hidden behind shell companies began to surface. Naomi watched it all unfold from a distance at first. She wasn't used to being in rooms where people spoke in low voices and paused when she entered. She wasn't used to being offered tea, asked if she was comfortable, or reminded gently that she could leave at any time. Respect still felt unfamiliar. One afternoon, as rain tapped softly against the windows, Naomi sat with a trauma specialist Marcus had brought in. Not because she was broken, Marcus had said, but because memory needed a safe place to return. You don't have to force anything, the woman told Naomi calmly. Memories come back when they feel protected. Naomi closed her eyes. At first, there was nothing. Then flashes. Rain streaking across glass. The smell of oil. The scream of twisting metal. Headlights too close. Too fast. Her breath quickened. I see the second car, Naomi whispered. It wasn't panicking. It was steady. What color? The specialist asked gently. Dark, Naomi said. Black, maybe dark blue. No plates in front. Her fingers curled into fists. I hear someone shouting, she continued. Not Marcus. Someone else. On the phone. She gasped suddenly. They were arguing, Naomi said, tears sliding down her face. The driver didn't want to do it. Someone said, finish it. The room went very still. Later that evening, Marcus listened as Naomi repeated everything she remembered. He didn't interrupt. He didn't look away. When she finished, his face had gone pale. That voice, he said quietly. Do you recognize it? Naomi shook her head. No, but I know it was a woman. Marcus closed his eyes. It was Evelyn, he said. Naomi felt a chill crawl up her spine. She was on the phone with the driver. Marcus continued. She was supposed to meet me after the deal. Instead, she tried to erase me. And she failed. Naomi said. Marcus nodded. Because of you. That night, Evelyn Grant sat alone in her penthouse, staring at a wall of screens. News channels played silently. Financial charts blinked. Her phone buzzed repeatedly with missed calls. She ignored them all. Instead, she poured herself a drink and stared at her reflection in the dark glass. Stay calm, she whispered to herself. You've survived worse. But something was different this time. The people who usually reassured her were quiet. The allies who once rushed to protect her were suddenly busy, distant, unavailable. Fear crept in, slow and unfamiliar. Her assistant finally dared to speak. They're reopening the investigation into crash. Evelyn's hand tightened around the glass. On whose authority? Multiple, the assistant replied. And there's a witness. Evelyn froze. A witness? She repeated. The assistant nodded. A woman. Evelyn's lips parted slightly. Naomi. Across the city, Naomi stood at the window of the safe house, looking out at the night sky. For the first time since the fire, her dreams didn't scare her. They guided her. She touched her scar again, not in shame, but in acknowledgement. It had carried the truth all these years. And now, the truth was waking up the world. Somewhere, powerful doors were beginning to close. Others were about to be forced open. And Naomi, once invisible, stood at the center of it all. No longer a victim of the past, but the key to its undoing. The first crack appeared on a Monday morning. Marcus was in a secure conference room when his legal team received confirmation that the highway crash case had been officially reopened. Not as an accident, but as a suspected attempt on a life. That alone changes everything. One lawyer said quietly, statute limits shift, protections disappear. Naomi sat at the far end of the table, listening. For once, people weren't speaking over her or around her. They were speaking to her. You're the primary civilian witness, another attorney said. Your testimony links intent to action. Naomi nodded slowly. I'll testify. Marcus turned sharply. In public court? Yes, Naomi replied. No closed doors. The lawyers exchanged looks. That will be dangerous. One warned. Naomi met his eyes. So was the fire. Word traveled fast through quiet channels. Subpoenas followed. Accounts were frozen. A shell company dissolved overnight, exposing names that had lived comfortably in shadow for years. Evelyn Grant felt the pressure tightening. She arrived at her office to find federal agents waiting, not to arrest her, but to deliver paperwork thick enough to change her breathing. Ms. Grant, one agent said evenly, you're required to surrender all electronic devices and financial records effective immediately. Evelyn forced a smile. Of course. But inside, something was unraveling. That evening, she made a call she had promised herself she'd never make again. "I need help," she said when the line connected. A man on the other end sighed. "You said this was handled." "It was," Evelyn snapped, "until the girl lived." Silence. "She remembers," Evelyn continued, "and Langston is backing her." Another pause. "You always did underestimate variables," the man said. "Fix it." The line went dead. Back at the safe house, Naomi paced the living room, restless. She felt it in her bones, the sense that things were accelerating beyond anyone's control. Marcus watched her quietly. "You don't have to go through with this," he said. "I'll protect you." Naomi stopped pacing and looked at him. "You couldn't protect me then," she said gently. "And that's okay. But now isn't about protection. It's about ownership." Marcus nodded, accepting the truth. Later that night, Naomi received an unexpected visitor, Henry Wallace. He looked thinner than before, more nervous. "They followed me," he said as soon as he stepped inside. "I didn't come straight here. I made sure." Naomi's stomach tightened. "What happened?" Henry pulled a small flash drive from his pocket. "I kept something," he said. "From that night. Dash cam footage. I didn't think it mattered until now." Marcus leaned forward sharply. "You have proof?" Henry nodded. "It shows the second car. And someone stepping out after the crash, checking the scene." Naomi's heart raced. "Can you see their face?" Henry hesitated. "No, but you can hear her voice." The room went silent. They plugged the drive into a secure laptop. The footage was grainy, rain-blurred but unmistakable. 2 cars. 1 impact. Then a woman's voice, sharp and furious, shouting into a phone. "Finish it. Now." Naomi's hands trembled. Marcus closed his eyes. "That's her," he said. For the first time, Naomi felt fear, not for herself, but for what the truth would unleash. Because evidence like this didn't just end careers. It ended alliances. It rewrote power. And once released, it could never be taken back. Marcus straightened. "We hand this over tomorrow." Henry swallowed. "Then there's no turning back." Naomi looked at the screen one last time. "I turned back for someone once," she said quietly. "I won't turn back again." Outside, the city slept unaware. But by morning, names would fall, walls would crack, and a scar the world once rejected would become the line that split the past from the future. Morning came heavy and gray, as if the sky itself understood what was about to happen. Naomi sat quietly in the backseat of the car as it moved through the city. She watched people walk their dog, buy coffee, laugh on sidewalks. Ordinary life continued, unaware that something powerful was about to shift beneath it. At the federal building, security was tight. Names were checked. Phones were taken. Doors opened and closed with final sound that echoed in Naomi's chest. She did not flinch. Inside a small interview room, Naomi sat across from 2 investigators. Marcus was nearby, but not beside her. This was her moment, and everyone understood that. "Take your time," one investigator said kindly. Naomi nodded. She began at the beginning, not with the fire, but with her life before it. Her parents, her dreams, her habit of helping strangers because it felt natural, because it felt right. Then she spoke about the rain, the crash, the choice to run toward danger while others stood still. Her voice trembled when she talked about the explosion, but she did not stop. She talked about waking up scarred, about being thanked by no one, about years of rejection that followed. When she finished, the room was silent. One investigator cleared his throat. "You understand that this testimony may put you at further risk." Naomi met his eyes. "I've been at risk my whole life." The flash drive was placed on the table. When the audio played, the room changed. There was no denying it now. Orders had been given. Intent was clear. By noon, warrants were signed. By evening, the news broke. Not with Naomi's name at first, but with shock headlines about corruption, attempted murder, and a powerful executive under investigation. Evelyn Grant's world began to collapse in real time. Her accounts were frozen. her travel privileges revoked. Former partners rushed to distance themselves. Doors that once opened with a phone call now stayed shut. She sat alone in her penthouse, staring at the city she once controlled. It's just noise, she told herself. This will pass. But when the knock came at her door, slow, firm, undeniable, she knew it wouldn't. Agent stepped inside. Evelyn Grant. One said evenly, "You are under arrest." Miles away, Naomi stood at a window, watching the same city from a very different place. Marcus joined her quietly. "It started," he said. Naomi nodded. "It's not over." "No," Marcus agreed, "but you did something extraordinary." Naomi shook her head. "I just told the truth." Marcus studied her face. The scar, the strength, the calm that came from finally being seen. "You know," he said, "the world is going to want to know who you are." Naomi turned toward him. "I don't need the world. I just want a life." Marcus smiled softly. "Then let's build one." Carefully, as night fell, Naomi lay down in a clean bed in a quiet room, with no sirens in her dreams. For the first time since the fire, sleep came easily, but somewhere deep inside her, she knew peace was temporary. Because when powerful people fall, they don't fall alone, and the truth she carried, once ignored, once punished, was about to demand a reckoning far greater than anyone imagined. The arrest sent shockwaves far beyond the city. By morning, Evelyn Grant's face was everywhere. Screens, headlines, whispered conversations in offices that once welcomed her. The woman who had moved Marcus with a sentence was now being led through a courthouse hallway, silent, her eyes hard and unreadable. Naomi watched none of it. Marcus had suggested she stay away from the coverage, and for once she agreed, not because she was afraid, but because she understood something new about herself. Her life was no longer defined by reaction. She spent the day walking through a quiet park near the safe house, feeling the sun on her skin. Children laughed nearby. A man played a saxophone softly on a bench. Ordinary sounds, ordinary moments, things she had once believed were for other people. That afternoon, Marcus joined her on the path. "There's something you should know," he said carefully. Naomi stopped walking. "Tell me." "Evelyn isn't the end," Marcus said. "She was a node, not the center." Naomi exhaled slowly. "I figured." Marcus nodded. "There are others, some already turning on each other." Naomi looked at him. "And you?" Marcus didn't answer immediately. "I built my success after that crash," he said. "But I didn't ask enough questions about who helped me get there. I benefited from a system that rewarded silence." Naomi studied his face. "Are you saying you're guilty?" she asked. "I'm saying I'm responsible," Marcus replied. "And responsibility doesn't disappear just because you regret it." Naomi thought about that for a long moment. Then she said, "Do you know what hurt more than the scar?" Marcus shook his head. "Being invisible," Naomi said. "Being treated like my pain didn't matter because it was inconvenient." Marcus nodded slowly. "Then I won't hide anymore either." The next day, Marcus Langston did something no one expected. He stepped forward publicly. Not with lawyers first. Not with excuses. With accountability. He held a press conference where he spoke plainly about the crash, about the documents he had carried, about the fear that had kept him quiet, and about the woman who saved his life and paid the price. He did not name Naomi. He didn't have to. The world began to shift its attention, not toward her scar, but toward the courage behind it. Back channels buzzed with urgency. Deals were canceled. Investigations widened. A few powerful names began quietly arranging exits from the country. Too late. One evening, Naomi received a letter. No return address. Inside was a single sentence written neatly. "You were not supposed to survive." Naomi's hands tightened around the paper. Marcus read it once and went very still. "They're testing you," he said, "seeing if fear still works." Naomi folded the letter carefully and placed it on the table. "It doesn't," she said. But later that night, as she lay awake, she understood something important. The people who feared the truth most were not done fighting it. And survival, she was learning, was only the first step. Standing your ground was the real battle. The letter changed something in Naomi. Not fear, focus. She stopped thinking of herself as someone being protected and started thinking like someone who needed to be prepared. The truth had stepped into the light, and shadows always reacted when that happened. Marcus noticed a shift immediately. "You're different," he said one morning as they sat across from each other at the kitchen table. "Quieter." Naomi nodded. "I'm listening." "To what?" Marcus asked. "To patterns," she replied. "People don't threaten what they've already defeated." Marcus studied her for a long moment, then smiled faintly. "You're right, and that means they're running out of options." But running out of options made people dangerous. That afternoon, one of Marcus's investigators brought new information. "The network Evelyn was part of is splintering," he reported. "Some are cooperating. Others are hiding assets. One name keeps coming up." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Say it." "Caleb Moore," the investigator said. "He was a silent partner. Never visible. Never recorded. He financed the cleanup after the crash." Naomi felt chill. "Cleanup?" The investigator nodded. "Witness intimidation. Evidence suppression. Payoffs." Naomi's mind raced. "That explains the men in suits," she said quietly. "The way everything vanished so fast." Marcus leaned back heavily. "Caleb Moore doesn't make threats. He makes disappearances." Naomi met his gaze steadily. "Then why send a letter?" Marcus frowned. "Because," Naomi continued, "he wants me scared enough to make a mistake." Silence settled over the room. "You're not leaving," Marcus said firmly. "Not without full protection." Naomi nodded. "I'm not running, but I'm also not hiding." 2 days later, Naomi insisted on accompanying Marcus to a closed-door legal meeting. The room was filled with people who once would have dismissed her without a glance. Now, every eye followed her. As she took her seat, she noticed a man across the table staring at her scar. Not with disgust, but calculation. She held his gaze. He looked away first. After the meeting, Marcus pulled her aside. "That man works for Moore." Naomi exhaled slowly. "Good. Then he can report back." Marcus stared at her. "You planned that?" "Yes," Naomi said. "Let them know I'm not hiding behind you. I'm standing beside you." That night, the power went out at the safe house. Not completely, just long enough for the darkness to feel intentional. Security moved instantly. Flashlights clicked on. Doors were checked. Naomi stood in the hallway, heart pounding but steady. "This is a warning," she said calmly. Marcus joined her. "We'll relocate." Naomi shook her head. "No, we fortify." The power returned minutes later. Too clean, too controlled. Whoever was watching wanted them alert, not gone. Later, as Naomi sat alone, she thought about the girl she used to be. The one who ran into fire without thinking, without calculation. She realized something then. Courage had changed shape. It wasn't about rushing forward anymore. It was about staying when everything told you to disappear. And Naomi Carter was done disappearing. Somewhere, Caleb Moore was beginning to understand that the woman he had tried to erase had become the one variable he could no longer control. And that terrified him. The trial date was set. That single fact shifted the balance of everything. Once a date existed, silence became impossible. Deals that had been whispered in private rooms now had deadlines. Truth had a schedule, and fear no longer had the luxury of time. Naomi felt the morning the notice arrived. She stood by the window, reading the letter slowly, her hand steady. Marcus watched her carefully. "You don't have to testify in open court," he said. "There are protections, alternatives." Naomi folded the letter and set it down. "No," she replied. "I'll speak." Marcus didn't argue. He knew better now. In another part of the city, Caleb Moore sat in a private office with no windows. He listened as his lawyer explained the situation in careful, controlled words. "The case is strong," the lawyer admitted. "Grant is already cooperating to reduce her sentence." Caleb's face remained calm. Too calm. "And the woman?" he asked. "The witness?" the lawyer said. "She's compelling. The jury will listen to her." Caleb's jaw tightened slightly. "People like her don't belong in rooms like that," he said quietly. They make things uncomfortable. The lawyer hesitated. With respect, sir, any attempt to interfere now would. I know the risks, Caleb interrupted. I also know patterns. People break. He stood and straightened his jacket. They always do. That evening, Naomi received a call from an unknown number. She stared at the screen for a long moment before answering. Yes, she said. A man's voice responded, calm and measured. Ms. Carter, my name is Caleb Moore. Marcus, across the room, stiffened. Naomi raised a hand slightly, signaling him to stay quiet. You've caused quite a disruption, Caleb continued. I wanted to hear your voice for myself. Naomi's heart beat faster, but her voice stayed even. If you wanted to talk, you could have chosen a better way. Caleb chuckled softly. You misunderstand. This is a better way. Naomi leaned against the wall. You survived something you weren't meant to, Caleb said. That kind of luck doesn't repeat forever. Naomi closed her eyes briefly. I didn't survive because of luck, she replied. I survived because someone made a choice. I made one, too. There was a pause on the line. You think this ends with a trial, Caleb said. You think telling your story gave you power. It already has, Naomi answered. Caleb's tone cooled. Power is knowing when to step aside. Naomi opened her eyes. No, she said quietly. Power is standing still when someone tries to push you out of your own life. Silence stretched. Then the line went dead. Marcus was already beside her. Are you okay? Naomi nodded. He wanted to scare me. And? Marcus asked. And he failed, she said. But later that night, the failure came with a cost. Henry Wallace didn't show up for a scheduled check-in. Calls went unanswered. Messages unread. By midnight, Marcus's security team was mobilized. By dawn, they found Henry's abandoned car on the side of the road. No blood, no signs of struggle, just an empty driver's seat and a single note left on the dashboard. Some people don't get second chances. Naomi stared at the note, her chest tightening painfully. This was no longer just about truth. It was about consequences. And Caleb Moore had just crossed a line that ensured there would be no quiet ending to this story. The trial was coming, and someone was trying to make sure Naomi never made it there. Henry Wallace's disappearance changed the tone of everything. Until then, there had been rules, lines people pretended not to cross. After Henry vanished, those rules were gone. Naomi stood in the quiet room as Marcus's security team reviewed footage, maps, timelines. She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She listened. Henry had been brave in the end. Brave enough to come forward. Brave enough to give them the evidence that cracked everything open. And now he was gone. Caleb Moore is sending a message, one of the security leads said carefully. Fear by example. Naomi finally spoke. He wants me to stop. The man nodded. Yes. Marcus's voice was tight. And he thinks taking Henry will do that. Naomi felt something harden inside her chest. Not anger, not panic, but resolve. It won't, she said. Marcus looked at her sharply. Naomi, he disappeared because of me, she continued. If I stop now, then he disappears for nothing. Silence filled the room. Marcus exhaled slowly. Then we'd do this faster. The legal teams moved immediately. Protective custody orders were escalated. Testimony schedules were tightened. The prosecution made a decision they had been avoiding. They would call Naomi first. No delays. No room for interference. The night before the trial, Naomi couldn't sleep. She sat at the small desk in her room and stared at her reflection in the darkened window. The scar was visible even in the faint light, tracing the story the world had once used to reject her. She thought about the girl she used to be, the one who believed kindness didn't need witnesses. She still believed that, but now she also believed in something else. Truth needed courage to survive. A soft knock came at the door. Marcus stepped in quietly. I should have protected Henry, he said. Naomi shook her head. You didn't take him. But my world did, Marcus replied, and I benefited from that world. Naomi studied him. What are you afraid of tomorrow? Marcus didn't answer right away. That I'll say the wrong thing, he said finally, that I'll look at you and remember how long I stayed silent. Naomi stood and faced him fully. Tomorrow isn't about what you didn't do, she said. It's about what you're doing now. Marcus nodded, emotion thick in his throat. If you change your mind, he began. I won't, Naomi said gently. The morning came cold and bright. Outside the courthouse, crowds gathered. Some came for justice, some for spectacle, some out of curiosity. Naomi walked into a secure entrance, her shoulders back, her steps steady. Inside, she passed Evelyn Grant sitting at the defense table, smaller somehow, her confidence cracked. Evelyn looked up, met Naomi's eyes, and looked away. Naomi felt no triumph, only clarity. Then she saw someone else. At the back of the courtroom, seated quietly, was Caleb Moore, not hiding, not fleeing, watching. Their eyes met across the room. For a brief moment, everything else disappeared. Caleb smiled faintly, as if to say, you made it this far. Naomi held his gaze without blinking. The judge entered. The courtroom rose. As Naomi was sworn in, her hand steady on the book, she understood something fully for the first time. They could threaten her. They could chase her. They could erase witnesses. But they could not erase the truth once it was spoken aloud. And when Naomi opened her mouth to testify, the world leaned forward, because this was the moment everything changed. Naomi's voice did not shake. That surprised everyone, including her. She stood in the witness box, the courtroom silent. Every ear tuned to a woman the world had once ignored. The scar on her face was uncovered now, clear and visible under the courtroom lights. For the first time, she did not try to hide it. She let it speak with her. I didn't know his name that night, Naomi began. I didn't know who he was, or what he owned, or what he was carrying. I only knew there was someone trapped in a car, and fire doesn't ask who you are before it burns you. A few people in the gallery lowered their heads. Naomi continued, steady and clear. She spoke of the rain, the crash, the second car. She described the voice she heard, the command given without mercy. She told him about waking up scarred, about years of rejection, about being treated like her life mattered less because her face made people uncomfortable. I was not punished by fate, she said. I was hurt because powerful people decided someone else's life mattered more than mine. Her eyes moved briefly to Caleb Moore. He did not smile now. When Naomi finished, there was no applause. There was something heavier, understanding. The prosecution called Marcus next. He did not defend himself. He told the court about the documents, the fear, the silence, the choices he regretted. He spoke plainly, without excuses, naming names, opening doors that had been locked for years. I am alive because of her, Marcus said, his voice thick. And everything I built after that night sits on a debt I can never fully repay. But I will spend the rest of my life trying. When the verdict came days later, it was decisive. Evelyn Grant was convicted. Caleb Moore was convicted. Others fell with them. Quietly, quickly, their power stripped away by the same truth they once tried to bury. Henry Wallace was found alive. Weak, shaken, but alive. When Naomi saw him in the hospital, she cried for the first time since the trial. Not from fear or pain, but relief. He smiled faintly and said, "Guess second chances do exist." Life did not become perfect after that, but it became possible. Marcus kept his word, not with loud announcements or cameras, but with action. He funded a foundation led by Naomi, not in her name, but under her direction. It supported burn survivors, people with visible scars, people the world often looked away from. Naomi insisted on one rule from the start. No pity, she said, only opportunity. She went back to school. She learned to speak publicly, not as a victim, but as a witness. People listened. One afternoon, months later, Naomi stood at the opening of a new community center. Children ran past her without fear. A little girl stopped, looked up at Naomi's face, and smiled. "You're beautiful," the girl said simply. Naomi smiled back. Across the room, Marcus watched quietly. He never tried to own her story. He never tried to center himself in it. He simply showed up again and again, doing the work. "You can just help me," Naomi said to him once. You help the world see me. Marcus shook his head. You help the world see itself. The scar that once brought rejection became the mark that revealed truth. The woman everyone dismissed became the woman who changed lives. And the billionaire who fell to his knees crying that night finally understood something wealth had never taught him. Some debts are not repaid with money. They are repaid with courage, humility, and choosing what is right, no matter how late the hour. Naomi Carter walked forward into her future with her head high, not because the world finally accepted her, but because she had accepted herself. And that changed everything.